Students, this is 12th zoology video class, chapter 6, evolution, part 10. Chapter 6, part 10. Last video class, we have seen evolution by anthropogenic sources. In that, we have seen natural selection in industrial melanism. Here, so we have seen two different types of beetle or moth. One is white color, another one is the one black color that we have seen. Then also we have seen artificial selection. And next topic we are going to see is the one adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiation. The evolutionary process which produces new species diverged from a single ancestral forms, becomes adapted to a newly invaded habitat is called adaptive radiations. Here, due to evolutionary process, any species, a new species, are just diversified from a single ancestors, and they adapted on new place, and they become habitat of that place. That is we call as a adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiations are best exemplified in closely related groups that have evolved in relatively short time. Here, the Darwin finches and the Australian marsupials are best examples for adaptive radiations. When more than one adaptive radiation occurs in an isolated geographical area, having same structural and functional similarity, it is due to convergent evolution. We'll see how Darwin finches explain this concept. The common ancestor arrived on the Galapagos of Ireland about 2 million years ago. 2 million years ago here. So this is what the Darwin finches. Finches means birds. Just they arise from Galapagos Island from 2 million years ago. During that time, during that time, the Darwin finches have evolved into 14 recognized species differing in body size, beak shape, and feeding behavior. So here the Darwin observed in the birds, they evolved 14 different species of the body size, beaks, shape, and feeding behavior. How these changes occurred? The changes in the size and from the beak have enabled different species to utilize different food resources such as insects, seeds, nectar from cactus flowers, and blood from iguanas, all driven by natural selections. So how all these birds are common ancestors, but they are divergent from their ancestors into 14 recognized different species. They differ based on body size as well as beaks. How this change occurs means this change occurs depends upon the food items they had. So that's all driven by natural selections. Here, the 6.5 picture represents some of the features observed by Darwin. The genetic variations takes place ALX1 gene in the DNA of Darwin finches. So underline this one. ALX1 is a type of gene in the DNA of Darwin finches is associated with the variations in the beak shape. So because of the change which occurs in the ALX1, so the beaks are being changed. The mild mutations in the ALX1 gene leads to phenotypic change in the shape of the beak of the Darwin finches. Since a slight change which occurred in the ALX1, because of that, the phenotypic change occurs. The marsupials in Australia and placental mammals in North America are two subclasses of mammals. They have adapted in similar way to particular food resources. Particular food resource, the locomotory skill or climate. They were separated from the common ancestor more than 100 million years ago. So these marsupials as well as the marsupial which lives in the Australia and placenta which lives in North America, they are two subclasses of mammals, but they have come from a single parent. So they are separated in the common ancestor more than 100 million years ago. Each lineage continued to evolve independently. So despite the temporal and geographical separations, the marsupials in Australia and placental mammals in North America have produced varieties of species living in similar habitats with a similar ways of life. Their overall resemblance in shape, locomotory mode, feeding, and foraging and superimposed upon different modes of reproductions. This feature reflects their distinctive evolutionary relationship. Over 200 species of marsupials live in Australia, along with many fewer species of placental mammals. The marsupials have undergone adaptive radiations to occupy the diverse habitats in Australia, just as the placental mammals have radiated across North America. Across the North America. So that's all about the informations of adaptive radiations of Darwin finches as well as marsupials of Australia and placental mammals in North America. So even though they are just diverged in different species, subclasses of species, but they have come from one ancestors and they are diverged from 100 million years ago. That's what they say here. The next topic is the one Hardy-Weinberg law. Next topic is the one Hardy-Weinberg law. Here, this is the one Hardy-Weinberg law. See these and all, they reduce syllabus. Straight away, we have to go to Hardy-Weinberg principles. In nature, the populations are usually evolving, such as grass and open meadow, which means grass and open meadow, means the grassland. That's what they say as an open meadow. Wolves in the forest, bacteria in a person's body, all are natural populations. All of these populations are likely to be evolving some of their genes. Evolution does not mean that the population is moving towards the perfections rather than the population changing genetic makeup over generations. Here, the evolution does not mean that populations are moving towards the perfections rather than the population changing in the genetic makeup over generations. So, for example, in a wolf population, there may be a shift in the frequency of gene variant for black fur than the gray fur. So, there is an examples they are given here. They are given on examples. They are taken that gene variants in the black fur as well as the gray fur. Sometimes this type of change is due to natural selections or due to migrations or due to random events. Okay, here sometimes this type change is due to natural selections or due to migrations or due to random events. Here the wolf populations, they have two fur, which means depends upon the gene variants. That's a black fur, then the gray fur. So this type of change occurs due to natural selections or due to migrations or due to random events. First, we will see the set of conditions required for the populations not to evolve. The Hardy of UK and Weinberg of Germany stated that allele frequency in the populations are stable. What is allele frequency? One dominant characters will be there, one recessive characters will be there. So that dominant recessive characters may be homozygous or may be heterozygous. Okay, that's what they say here. Here, in the populations, the allele frequency in the populations are stable and are constant from generation to generations in the absence of gene flow. So allele means the dominant recessive, that will be constant if any change does not occurs in between generation by generations due to in between the absence of gene flow. A gene flow, genetic drift or mutations or recombinations or natural selection. If these are the things does not take place means allele frequency will be stable only. If these are things occurs means allele frequency will not be stable, will not be constant. If a population is in a state of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, the frequencies of the alleles and genotypes set of alleles in that populations will remain same over generation. Okay, what they say, the Hardy-Weinberg law, the frequency of allele means the continuations of dominant recessive characters or genotype characters or set of alleles in the populations remain same over generations. How this will remain same? The conditions which I told you earlier, these should not take place. Gene flow should not take place. Genetic drift should not take place. Mutations should not take place, and recombination should not take place. Natural selection should not take place. If these instance does not take place, means what happens? Here, the set of alleles in the population will remain over same over generations. Evolution is a change in allele frequencies in the populations over time. Hence, the population's Hardy-Weinberg is not evolving. Suppose we have large populations of beetles that appears into two colors, dark gray and light gray, and the color is determined by gene A, by A gene. AA, that's a dominant alleles. A capital small a is the one heterozygous dominant alleles, and beetles are dark gray, and small a small beetles are light gray. In the populations, let's say that A alleles have frequency of P. So A alleles have frequency of value 7, P as of 0.3, and recessive alleles has frequency of Q of 0.7. Then P plus Q is equal to 1. What they say here. So this is a formula they use if a population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. The genotype frequency can be estimated by Hardy-Weinberg equations. P is equal to Q square is equal to P square plus 2PQ plus Q square. What do you mean by P square? Frequency of dominant AE. 2P means the frequency of dominant as well as on recessive alleles. Q squares means frequency of recessive small a small a. So they were given the value P is equal to 0.3, Q is equal to 0.7, then P square, you can just do the sum here. You can go through these equations, you can work it out. Hence, the beetle populations appears to be in a Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. When beetle is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium reproduce. The allele and genotype frequency in next generations would be, let's assume that frequency of dominant as well as recessive alleles in the pool of gametes that makes of next generations would be the same. When there would be no variations in the progeny. The genotype frequencies of the parent appears in the next generations. This is 9% of dominant, 42% of dominant, this is dominant as well as recessive, and 49% of the recessive alleles. If we assume that beetles mate randomly and female gametes in the pool, the probability of getting offspring genotype depends upon the genotype of the combinations of parental gametes. If these beetles does not have any gene flow of others, then there won't be no Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Okay, that is the one. The Hardy-Weinberg assumptions includes no mutations, random mating, no gene flow, a very large population size. So these the explanations if that does not take place, no mutation should not take place. Random mating should not take place. No gene flow. No gene flow means other species of same kind of genes should not go and mate with each other. And very larger population size. And by no natural selections. If all these things occurs, means we can say the Hardy-Weinbergs taking place. If these are the points, if it is mixed in the two generations which lives in the one single pool, so it won't be considered as a Hardy-Weinberg law. So that's all. With this, we'll just wind up class. So remaining topics are reduced syllabus. These are not all reduced syllabus. So we have completed chapter 6 fully. Okay, chapter 6 fully. Just go through this Hardy-Weinberg law. Go through these equations. Just learn this one and go through. This defines very important one. If you have any doubt, you can contact me. Okay, bye. Take care.